well as downloads and CDs at livefish.com. You can check that out starting next week. Now we have a very special guest in the studio. We have widespread panics for the house engineer, Chris Rabold. Chris, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Welcome back to Bonnaroo. I think as you were saying before, you are the Bonnaroo house band.
Yeah, more or less. It's been a lot of times here.
So we have some exciting news in the Panic camp. Not just that you're the surprise headliner at Bonnaroo this year, but we have a new release from the Panic Archive, the first release.
That's right.
Panic Archive.
That's right.
So tell us how did you choose this show, and how did the whole process begin?
I think, it's been pretty evident for a while that it was time to start putting this stuff out, and there is a lot of material. I mean, there is a ton of material. It's all archived, sitting there waiting to go. And, a couple different shows were sort of kicked around, some ideas, and it was mainly through the band having some ideas, and a lot of it came from input from sort of trusted sources.
Like fans?
Yeah, like fans and people close to the band. And believe it or not, a lot of times folks think that, the fans' input is just lost on the band and the organization, but it's not, So this was just a show that, I don't know, it was apparent that it was time to do it, and this show just kept coming up, and we were afraid for a while that it was not going to happen, this particular show, because there were some technical sort of mishaps here or there.
On the master tapes?
On the multi-tracks themselves. And it was actually, a show was scrapped, honestly. We figured we had to find something else, and I had begun looking for some other stuff, and then I kind of dug a little deeper, and I found this, and I found that, and kind of, said to the band, and they agreed too. I'm like, we could actually do this way. And we ended up doing that. And this way means just merging what we could from the existing two-track soundboards with the full multi-track mixes. And there was a couple different ways we could have done that. And in the end, we decided to literally just go from two-track soundboard to fade right in to the multi-track stuff. And it worked. And I think it was, like most things with Panic, it's just things happen when they're supposed to happen, how they're supposed to happen. And this was one of those.
And so it was mixed by John Keane?
Yeah, what happened was and when I say tapes, they were literally tapes this time. It's just digital tape. Took it over to John Keane's studio, which is right there in Athens, and sat there and he mixed it. And took a couple weeks to do, and took the original DAT over there as well. And he kind of blended it, and he polished it up and made it a little prettier than it was. And I was really impressed at how seamless the fades are, the transition between the two sources, because they sound vastly different.
You wouldn't notice about it if you hadn't told me that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's if you're really listening hard, what to sort of kind of look for here and there, you can tell. But it worked out really well. Like I was saying, a lot of stuff with this band is in general just sort of it happens when it happens, but it always happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Maybe you could explain the difference. We put out every night on livewidespreadpanic.com, but that explain to fans how does that process is different from going to the archives.
Greatly different. Essentially what we put out, what I send you guys every night, is just straight off the board. It's just whatever I do in the house that night, which means, I might be mixing underneath a balcony one night, I might be in a big arena, or I might be in a pretty damn nice place here, Super PA, out in the flat field. So anyway, what that means is it's a one-shot deal, and it's not mixed for tape, it's really mixed for the room. But it's been coming out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with what we put out. The difference is with this archive stuff, what we can do where multi-track tapes exist, and the multi-tracks begin around 94, 95 primarily. What we can do is we go back, and it doesn't matter what the show sounded like that night. That is totally separate. You go back and you take these tracks and you remix it. You start from scratch, and you're doing it in an isolated area in a proper listening environment. So you can really tune in. The stage volume's not causing you to sort of mix around it or whatever, and that's why it always ends up cleaner and nicer. And it's just it's excellent. It's such a great opportunity. It's just right now the thing we're having to do is cull through the material from separate, what do we have that's on multi-tracks and what do we have that's not. And the stuff that we have that's not, that's just on 2-track. It's just board stuff. You know, we're still wanting to put some of that out.
Something like Sit and Ski, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, Sit and Ski, that's, you know, it's funny you said that. I've been digging through that. Some of it's there, some of it's not there.
Yeah, that's what we get the most requests for.
You know,
that and a couple of the classic New Year's
and
shows.
the first thing I did this year, actually, because I told myself at the beginning of the year, I was like, all right, let's start really looking, was I went to the Sit and Ski stuff, and like I said, some of it's there, some of it's not. And stuff like that's really tough because some of it was so good, and you don't want to put out anything less than what was the best. So we got to make sure, and that's the way this whole process works, or we're finding that it works, is, you know, we don't want to put something out just to do it, you know, and you want to give something to the fans that everybody is going to appreciate. Now, you know, of course, everybody's going to have an opinion on it. Should have done this, should have done that, what about this, what about that, and that is just the tail of the tape. So, but you know, you got to kind of have a cool head about it. Go, you know what? We don't have to put out 40 releases next month.
Right.
We got 20 years worth of stuff down there to go through.
So what can we look forward to? Do you think we'll have a regular archive series, or
Yeah.
what does the band want to do?
Man, I tell you what, everybody is really pumped up, and I mean within the band, within the organization, about really doing this now. You know, it took a while. I think it honestly, you know, starting now is exactly when it should have. It's just, you know, I don't know what the hurry was for so many folks, but I understand. But the thing is, you know, we got there when it was time, and now it's time. But anyway, people are pumped up, and what we're going through now, so that we can do this regularly, is trying to figure out what next. You know, because especially now when we're at the beginning, you know, it'll be a little easier when we're halfway through it, because we would have done a little of this, done a little of that, the next one's not so big. But right now, you know, we're going through, well, do we go way back?
Yes.
Do we do, you know, yes is the prevailing sentiment. Again, the problem there is, does it exist and in what form? You know, and you know, another thing too is, do people have it out there? And a lot of the older stuff, everybody had it, because everybody could show up, plug in, and do we have anything better than what we're going to be able to offer? So right now what we're going through is, what next? What kind of state is that in? You know, there's something too where a lot of this sort of late 90s, early 2000s stuff is really on everybody's hit list. Everybody wants that, but when you've got 20 years of material, you don't want to focus on a 3-year period. I think that's sort of short-sighted, and you know,
Want to represent different eras, different
Right.
songs that were in rotation at different times. The
Right.
development of now classic songs.
Exactly.
They were like in the early
And
days.
you know, for me to go back and sit there and listen to it, it's pretty cool. You know, I'll laugh because a lot of the stuff, you know, their patterns are still the same, but some of the stuff you just sit back and you go, and not that it was better or worse at that time, you just go, God damn it, that's changed. You know? And you go back, you listen to something about when they started playing Arlene again in, you know, whatever, mid-90s, early 90s. I mean, it's just free form as it gets, you know, and then of course now it's a little more structured, or certain songs back then definitely didn't have their legs under them, and now they're just full throttle. And
Well, of course, there's the obvious difference of what songs were like when Mikey was playing.
well,
And then now, now it changes.
You know,
songs have changed.
exactly.
The dynamics within a song have changed.
And you know, the whole thing with, you know, the stuff, I mean, everybody wanted and wants the stuff with Mike, obviously, you know, and that's why I think, again, the timing now, as far as I know, there was no sit down, okay guys, let's give it 5 years, let's do this, let's do that. You know, that didn't happen, you know, but when you sit and really look at it, you know, it's been some time now. I think it's the right time to get this thing rolling. But again, I won't say shocked. I'm happy at how excited and motivated they are to do this. And we have the band, and we literally have a list of, it's like as the guys come to us, or come to me, or come to Forrest Moore, who's really gotten involved in this, with shows, we just write down the show. We have a little database, and who suggested it, you know, that's kind of what we're picking from.
And did some band members have their favorite shows that they want to see come out?
Yeah, it's,
Or conversely, ones that they say, I never want to see that one, it's a go light a day?
no, you know, I think I kind of got an idea on what the ones they would never want to hear are. You know, yeah, there's a few shows that keep popping up, you know, and there's some of the obvious ones that everybody, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Smoke Mountain Runs and some of these sort of stuff that, you know, of
Okay,
course.
one
ran through the evolution of
Yeah, of course, you know, and those things are pretty no-brainers. I'm sure they'll come out in due time, you know. But there are these other shows that'll be these random little places that on a Tuesday there was 800 people there that suddenly two band guys will mention, hey, you know this one?
Yeah.
So that's cool, you know. Now at the same time, you know, we'll throw one their way, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that, you know. So
And when you play, like, what's the reaction when you play something back to them? They're like, oh, I remember that night, or what, we played that?
a lot more if we played that, you know. But then again, like I said, at the same time, next thing you know, the person you think is not paying attention at all will remember this, you know, something they did here when I remember this, or you know. But you know, again, right now we're just narrowing it down. We kind of have a little formula that we're using right now, but we just got to narrow down because it's such a sort of exciting process that at this point